So about 2 or 3 years ago, before I met Jesse even, I'd just kind of been praying for my future husband and wondering kind of when I was going to meet the guy that would just really just blow me away and show me everything that I'd ever heard. And the Lord just really showed me and told me that there was a man that I would go into the mission field with and that I would marry. And I had never met this guy before, and I was like, okay, Lord, okay. So for the next few years, every time I prayed, I just kept on seeing this and hearing this, and I was like, okay, Lord, what is this?
Yeah, so my sophomore year of college, I was at Lee University, and I was on leadership of this ministry called Igbalo, and this was more of an outreach missions ministry coming out of the House of Prayer at Lee University. And every spring break, Igbalo would take about 60 students from Lee and then some other ministries, and we would go on a southeastern campus tour. And it was during this tour that I had the privilege of leading a team to Alabama and Florida, and one of the stops that we made was actually Lawrence campus, UAH, University of Alabama in Huntsville. And it was an awesome time there. We got to lead worship, and we got to really just steward the presence of the Lord at this meeting. And Lauren happened to come to a leadership meeting that was before that meeting, and that was the first time that I saw Lauren. And I kid you not, when she walked in the room, that was late, I was stopped with what I was saying and made her introduce herself to the room. And it was really that point that I really first saw Lauren and really knew that the Lord had something on her life that was something that I want to be part of. And so it was ever since then that we first met, and from there the Lord just started us on an adventure that's been amazing so far.
So when I walked in the room, late as he likes to always highlight, I walked in, and as soon as I saw him, I knew automatically that he was the man that the Lord had been telling me about. And so as we finished the meeting, I had to leave and go do some other things with the ministry. And then we went to the worship night that we did that night with them. And I kept just noticing him, and I was like, I've got to talk to this guy. So I smoothly sent him a message talking about the ministry and how much we loved them being there. And then just as smoothly, he sent his number back to me and was like, hey, we're going to do outreach. You should come with us. So met up the next day. We barely talked even. But then after his team left, we continued to communicate over text message and over phone. And we slowly began to realize that the Lord had been speaking to us both separately about being with each other and our relationship. And so we decided to just kind of pray about it and see where the Lord led us and what confirmation he did give us.
And yeah, from there, we got back from the tour, and I remember one of the first things I did getting back to Lee University was I called Steve Allen and Todd McDowell, who are both with Caleb Company, and told them all about this girl, told them about the trip, and eventually told my parents, and was just really just wondering what to do, because they kind of, what she was like telling me about what the Lord was telling her and the Lord was telling me, it was just kind of all of a shock. And thankfully, all of them were able to walk alongside me through this whole process, and with Lauren, and we really saw as we continued to walk closer together and got to know each other that the Lord was quickly confirming things that really just made things obvious. And we got to a place where we actually did genuinely like each other and wanted to start pursuing each other. And so I eventually came back to Alabama, met her entire family, her extended family,
One day.
in one day, and came during her birthday. And through that, just continued falling in love with Lauren. And now we've been walking with Caleb Company ever since.
After Jesse had kind of told me all about Caleb Company and I got to start getting to know them, I decided to do their training school this past summer. And I spent the summer, half of it in Nashville and half of it in Israel, just really digging in and learning God's heart for his people and for the nations, and really getting to understand this organization that I knew that I would eventually be part of, which is kind of where we're at now, leading into this new season of marriage and coming onto staff with Caleb Company, leading the training schools, which he can tell you about.
Well, first off, we got engaged during during these trips, her training school was CT10, was in Nashville for a month and then Israel, and then I was leading with Kendra and Canaan another program to the Middle East, the Muslim nations, and we met in Jerusalem. Both of our teams met, and this was around the time where it's just like I felt the Lord really just give me peace about proposing to Lauren, and so I actually had the amazing honor to propose to her in Jerusalem on the city walls during sunset, and ever since then we've been walking, continuing pursuing staff at Caleb Company. Come January, we'll be on full-time staff, helping continue to lead the training programs, lead teams to the Middle East. And I think our desire overall, speaking for both of us, is really just to see the unreached people groups reach with the gospel of Jesus. And we are willing to give our lives to that. And eventually we do want to live full-time in the unreached people groups in the Middle East and North Africa. But as of now, the next 5 or 6 years, we will be with Caleb Company, continuing to steward the Caleb Launch program and the training programs to train and equip long-term laborers and send them to the Middle East.
And whenever I do graduate, I plan on eventually pursuing midwifery, and my heart is really to assist women and children in whatever medical needs they may have. And the Lord has just revealed a lot to me about the influence that these women and children have in the hard times they have, especially in the Middle East, when there's so much just dishonor towards women and children. And the Lord has just really revealed to me the importance in helping them in that time, and whether it's delivering their babies or providing basic medical care to everyone.
I think overall, our desire is to really see the church come to a place of convergence of prayer, worship, and missions. And our desire is to see the global church really invest in those 3 things of the first commandment being love God, and to really be found in a place of ministering to his heart through prayer and worship, but to also see out of that place, see intimate believers go into the mission field because they've been convinced of his worthiness. And so I think all this, of all the practicals, is really just to see God glorified in the Middle East and to really be anchored in the place of prayer and worship through houses of prayer, yes, but unto eventually reaching the harvest through medical needs or through digging wells, whatever it is that the Lord calls us to. And so we thank you so much for walking with us these past year and a half that me and Lauren have been walking together in a relationship. And we thank you guys so much for considering partnering with us and supporting us as friends, family, and we appreciate it. Thank you. So I think to finalize this summary of our relationship and what we're doing, I think we all come to the conclusion that prayer, missions, worship, whatever it is of the utter importance.